Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, buenos dias to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. Every nook and cranny where our 100-watt signal permeates into your FM radio. For those who are still using FM radio, that is. Well, we are going to have a great show for you, including welcoming and saying a great good afternoon, good morning, or whatever time it is to the rest of the world. Again, yes, we have listeners all over the world via that magical thing called the internet. Anyway, we're going to have a great program today. But before we get to the studio, I just want to tell you that last night was magical. You know, a friend of mine called me up a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey, Egberto, Rachel Maddow is going to be in town." You know, she wrote her new book on fascism, etc., etc., etc. And we bought an extra ticket for you. Come on, let's go together and watch Rachel and what she had to say. So we went last night. Why I'm still sleepy because I still have to get all this stuff done. But it was wonderful. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But let's go ahead beforehand and go to the people who really make things happen around KPFT. That would be Howard and Jack in the studio at Caroline, or Resident Geniuses. Buenos dias, hermanos.
We're still looking for them. We haven't found any geniuses around here. Just these poor slobs who showed up to do the job.
Okay, whatever. I know what I said is true, and politics doesn't lie.
No, it is a truthful show. I was reading the Associated Press news this morning about Trump's visit to Washington. God, I just wanted to puke. I really did, because it's like, you're welcoming back the guy who tore the place to pieces, and all these sycophant Republicans. Oh, you're so great, and trying to make a deal with Mike Johnson to overturn the conviction. What a slime ball! And it was worded, President Trump returns a triumphant return to Washington. Well, first of all, he's former President Trump, and he did not triumphantly do anything but show up and beg for stuff, because that's what he does. So I kind of started the morning off on a sour note for me. But Politics Done Right will make it all right. And Jack's wisdom, well, that'll just take me right out of the funk. So Jack, what you got?
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. How are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Great.
This is about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court sides with the corporate against the worker and their rights. Mm-hmm. Who would have thunk that? I mean, the Supreme Court is still out of balance by 2/3 to the right. Alito and Thomas are marred in controversy over accepting bribes, gifts, trips influence peddling from wealthy conservative donors. No wonder the people are getting the shaft from our corporate cash co-opted Supreme Court.
Bought and paid for by your tax dollar.
Yes.
Exactly right.
The Supreme Court is just another quagmire. I mean, it has lost so much respect. I mean, it's a pariah.
It's almost illegitimate.
Well, no one believes the Supreme Court anymore. All this stuff, Alito's wife, she's flying the flag upside down to stop the steal. What in the hell are you doing? And why are you allowing that? This is crazy. I have never seen, well, I guess this is how all great countries fall. You know, you can't militarily overpower us. You have to corrupt us into collapsing, which is basically what is happening right now.
That's the way I see it.
Well, you see it right, Jack. You see it with both eyes.
Open.
Yeah, I got one eye closed thinking, I can't believe I'm seeing this. Eyes, are you deceiving me? But it is true. Supreme Court bought off.
Yeah, the Supreme Court needs to get balanced. I mean, it needs to have some balance to it, or the people are just not going to be considered in any of these decisions because they're always siding with the corporate interest.
Well, the fact is, we just need to scrape the plate clean and start over again with the Supreme Court. Just say, no. We're going to disband you and start over again. And put in term limits, 10 years, and that's all you get.
Yeah, how long has Chief Justice been on the bench?
Oh,
Chief Justice Roberts.
Since Bush. Yeah,
he's almost 30 years now. And
it's amazing.
20.
Yeah,
way long.
And you know, with the ones that are older, Alito and Thomas, the idea is they really need Trump to win, because what happens is Alito and Thomas want to go, and guess what that does? If Alito and Thomas goes and Biden is president, or any progressive or Democrat is president, you get the court back into a balance with the American population, which would be a 5-4 court that is more center-left type of a court. And oh boy, they fought hard for that 6-3. They don't want to drop to 5-4 in 2 years. You know, they don't want that.
Yep. Well, I'm going to let you take over your show here because we've taken enough of your time, and I got work to do.
Well, thank you guys. And let's start here. The title of the show today is Why Some Latinos Are Moving to Trumpism. We Better Heed Now. SCOTUS choose Starbucks over workers. Dr. Manuel Pastor dissects a sad reality. Some Latinos are migrating to Trump. MAGA Supreme Court Starbucks ruling is seen as a gift to corporate union busters. I want to start with the union, though. Jack, I want to start with where Jack started. And the reason why it is important, because this is where we got Supreme Court involvement. Look, corporations are not a democracy. It is an entity that has great power in controlling employment, meaning employing people or not. Also, they pretty much have our economy rigged. They control it. A few corporations have control over the economy. And as such, we have to make sure that there are laws that protect us, we, the citizens. In a country as we have it, we have the Congress that creates, different laws, and we have boards, we have agencies that interpret those laws or execute those laws, of course, under the executive, and of which the NLRB is one, the Labor Relations Board. When we want to have unions, I mean, like we mentioned before, corporations are powerful and they have the freedom to do what they want. It's not a democracy. They can hire and fire at will. And we created some subjugate structures like unions. And unions are employees getting together so that they can speak with one voice to this powerful entity called a corporation or any job, etc. It's something that provides balance. In other words, the corporations and the different organizations that they form, the different metallurgical this or the Chamber of Commerce, they fight for the rights of a corporation. They fight for the corporate interest, and the corporate interest is not always in the interest of the employee, those people who work for the corporation. So unions are formed so that the average citizen, the average employee, will have a voice that must be listened to or else. Now, there are many ways to control that, right? You can actually corporations can coerce illegally. And why is it illegal? Because Congress have said unions have rights. In other words, they have the right, and there are certain things that corporations with the power that they have cannot stop the creation of unions. They have certain rules they have to follow to ensure that we get humane interaction between union and corporation, between corporation and employee. So now the unions are starting to grow up again. They're starting to assert their will. They're starting to go beyond the coercion of the corporations, and Starbucks is a very good example. I love my Starbucks coffee not because of the coffee taste, but because of the ambiance. I go in there, I meet people, and so forth. So they create there's an environment we have created in these coffee shops, whether it's Starbucks or whether it's others. And these folks, and by the way, Starbucks used to be a very employee-centric company. They did right by their employees. But as usual, after a while, Starbucks is one of those companies that can make a whole lot of money doing very little. I mean, making a cup of coffee, which is mostly water, and put in a few fancy drops in it, and it becomes from a drink that costs Starbucks 15 cents, including, it suddenly is worth $5, $7. So when we tell folks to support these radio station, say, hey, buy a cup of coffee a month, anyway. But it costs very much for the coffee, and you would want that excess. The reason many of us are willing to spend, I imagine all of you out there are willing to spend some money on these expensive coffees, is to add to our economy. Ensure that you have people there making an extra dollar, making money to go home and take care of their kids, to get a better education, all that kind of stuff. Well, as Starbucks started to make more money, more shareholders, it got lucrative. And as these companies get lucrative, what happens is, as you know, everybody wants a certain return on their investment, right? Because that's how we were programmed. We think of two things: return on investment and whatever you get in dividends. So a lot of these folks they don't suffice with getting a constant dividend. Let's say a 1 or 2% dividend on the stock that you buy, for sitting down at your pool or whatever, as this money makes money for you. A little bit of interest is good. But no, they want constant growth in the company, because if a company is constantly growing its share of the money they're collecting, there's not only the dividend that the company pays, but there's something magical that happens called the appreciation of the stock, which people get rich off, and which they pay lower taxes on appreciation versus dividend. So that's what Starbucks and all these corporations try to do: maximize the amount, the value of the stocks, so that their shareholders make more money, the executives make more money. But the only way to do that after you've maximized the amount of money, you minimize the amount of money you pay for your raw supplies, whether that be coffee, cocoa, and all these other paper, whatever you need to keep that company going. The only other option is to shortchange the employee, which is what they always do. Shortchange the employee. So things didn't stay 100% great for the Starbucks employee as it was a good place before. So they started to unionize. And there are many Starbucks stores that are unionized. Starbucks didn't like that. And so whenever they find people in the store that's starting to try to create a union, they fired them. And that's what they did in this case. They fired 7 people. I don't remember in what store. And this is how the Supreme Court message started. It says, after several Starbucks employees announced plans to unionize, they invited a news crew from a local television station to visit the store after hours to promote their unionizing efforts. Starbucks fired multiple employees involved with the media event for violating company policy. The National Labor Relations Board filed an administrative complaint against Starbucks, alleging that it had engaged in unfair labor practices. The board's regional director then filed a petition under 10J of the National Labor Relations Act, seeking a preliminary injunction for the duration of the administrative proceedings that would, among other things, require Starbucks to reinstate fired employees. Now, the Starbucks again filed a complaint to get to the Supreme Court, and yesterday the Supreme Court, by an 8-1 decision, 2 of the progressives, again, that just shows you how powerful business is. 2 of the progressives on the court supported. Only Ketanji Brown voted to say, no, we need to support employees in all cases. Employees in all cases. Ketanji Brown understands the power of the corporation. She understands the weakness that if you don't put checks and balances on a corporation, that the corporations will do whatever it takes to ensure they crush the union movement. Let me tell you something. One of the reasons you see in the aggregate, Republicans fight so hard to appoint people to the courts is because they understand that is the only undemocratic portion after instantiated, after a judge has been placed on the bench, democracy ends. Their statements are absolute. I did a piece at KPFT a few years ago trying to explain why it is that we must be very careful in elections of the people who will get Supreme Court judges appointed. Because, well, I'll let the video speak for itself. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. It's a short video, but a very important video about the Supreme Court, about our country, about the separation of branches and the powers of branches. Check this out.
That piece that I played on the Constitution, when we talk about the merits of the Constitution, what I wanted to do with that argument about the Constitution and what Trump via McConnell is doing with the Supreme Court, with the district courts, with the circuit courts, is to explain something important to you. It's not enough for us to go out there and just say we want to win the presidency or we want to win this Congress seat or anything. We have to change the mold of the country, the psyche of the country, because there's so much that they know that most people don't. Like when McConnell is playing with the Supreme Court and playing with the district court and playing with the circuit court, a lot of people sit back and they don't think it has much impact on them. We are trying to establish a more perfect union. We are trying to establish a system that works for everybody, which means we no longer allow a plutocracy to take it all. But you know what? The American population is wising up, but they're already preparing for a wise population, and they're using the Constitution to prepare for that wise population. How so? Everybody who studied their government classes understand there's a judiciary, a legislative, and a executive. The legislative makes the laws, the executive executes the laws, and the judiciary interprets the law's constitutionality. Well, if we are going to win all these new elections and we are going to win the presidency, the only help the plutocracy could possibly have is the only undemocratic portion of the American system that was designed constitutionally, and that is the judiciary. The judiciary can take any piece of law that the legislative branch passes and the executive branch affirms and say a corporation who now owns all these judges can now say, well, that law is unconstitutional and it then cannot be implemented. We already have gerrymandering that has made the country a country that's not ruled by most. California has probably 40 million people or more, however million they have. And some of the Dakotas have a few 100,000. And both of them get 2 senators. Wow, that's a lot of power for a little bit of people. And now the Supreme Court is preeminent. The Supreme Court is undeniably the most powerful branch of the government, and a lot of people don't tell you that. They always talk about, oh, we have the checks and balances. There ain't no check against the Supreme Court unless we're going to then implement the difficult thing that's called impeachment. But constitutionally, you can only impeach judges with either 3/5 or 3/4. I don't remember the number, which means you have to have a hell of a supermajority in Congress to do what you have to do. So, folks, the way they intend to destroy the Roman intelligent middle class is to do the constitutionally undemocratic thing, and that is to use the courts.
And that is what we have to understand. That is a play. That is the game. That is what they intend to do. And this ruling against Starbucks is a perfect example. It's a perfect example that says, we can now understand that the masses don't stand a chance with the wrong Supreme Court judges. And we will get wrong Supreme Court judges if we create the wrong presidency. You already see most women want support for they want to ensure they can have control of their own bodies. The Supreme Court says no. Yesterday, a lot of people thought we got a win because you can use the Metro, whatever the name of the abortion drug is, but that's not what the ruling was. The ruling simply said, you guys who brought this to us have no stand-in. Somebody else with stand-in can bring it to us. So swinging that right back to Starbucks, swinging that right back to the power of the people. Understand what our plutocracy has done. Understand what was already pointed out in the Powell memo. This memo created by former justice, or not former justice, but former lawyer for this Chamber of Commerce, Lewis Powell, and then subsequently a Supreme Court justice, pointed out we have to get people dumber. Read the Powell memo. You can read it at my site. Read the Powell memo. I'm just paraphrasing. It says we need to make the American population dumb. They're getting too smart. And then it says, how do we go ahead and implement this? We infiltrate the churches, the media, the schools, and everywhere else. And after doing that, we control their minds. And in that way, business remain preeminent. Remember what I tell you guys. You don't have to listen to me and just believe the words that I'm shooting out of my mouth. Everything that I said is verifiable. I ask you kindly if you want to see what the Powell memo says. Now, I just paraphrased the Powell memo. It's a fairly long document that is easy to read. And you can read between the lines when I talk about why they want to ensure they control your mind, which they're so far doing a pretty damn good job of it. Just go ahead and you can search for Powell memo and read the entire thing. So again, before I go to the calls, we have a lot of work to do. Yesterday, with Rachel, going to watch Rachel Maddow, she didn't take any questions or met with the public. It was a fly in and fly out kind of a deal. But her message was prescient. And this is your country. Fight for your country. Don't sit down and feel like you need to be in the doldrums. Get up and fight for your country. Thank you, Eric Hayes, for being in the chat, as well as Alizarin Dreams, Shakula Hairstylist as well. And we have CTK10 and Texas Blue Bonnet. Healthy chat going in the room. Thank you guys for being here. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the calls. And by the way, the telephone number is 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. We have been populated over the last few days with men. I'm waiting for women to call in and really say your piece. You are the ones who are going to control the 2024 election. You are the ones with the power to choose. You are the one who also will be materially and financially, economically affected based on whomever get chosen. And good morning to Billy Allison Irwin in the chat as well. Let's get to Harry. Come on in, brother Harry.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Egberto, and happy Friday to Jack and Howard. Love your wisdom, Jack, about the corporatists. Love your rants, Howard, as usual. Roberto, you're right about all that with the Supreme Court. Now, if Joe Biden does get a second term and they get a Democratic-controlled Senate, I think he needs to expand the court. I don't know when Alito or Thomas would retire. If they, they may just stay on there until they get really sick or they die or something like that. Like what happened with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But you're right about all that stuff, and I really feel for those workers at Starbucks. It's just really a shame. Ketanji Brown Jackson gets it, as you said. She cares about the worker. But I wanted to comment on what Brian said yesterday. He spun what Neil Aquino said and what I said when we were talking about Fred Trump. Neil Aquino was saying in his state of in Ohio, Cincinnati, when Fred Trump was renting to black people, Brian tried to say that Fred Trump didn't rent to black people. I never said that either. What we were saying is when I learned about the C on the application, Fred Trump believed in segregating the apartment housing building for blacks and whites. He didn't want blacks and whites living in the same building that he rented to. He wanted it separate, and that's and his son, Donald, is the same way. And then I heard some things Donald said yesterday on Washington when he was talking about we don't want wasted money around the world. We don't want we have runaway inflation and we want strong borders. I think when he's talking about we don't want wasted money around the world, he doesn't want taxpayer money going to aid the Ukraine to stop Putin from taking control of the Ukraine. So that's what you're in for, folks. If Donald Trump gets back in there and he gets a Republican-controlled Senate and House, and he wants to, and as you were talking about with abortion being on the ballot, with affirmative action going away, and Roe versus Wade being overturned, that's why it's important, women. You have a voice.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry. Harry, you're right. I want to just mention something about Brian that I think is very important, right? Brian also brought up a legitimate case. And if we want intellectual honesty, we always have to call a spade a spade. Now, Brian, I think was flawed in several of his reasoning, but the one thing that he did bring up is the same way you guys are attacking Trump. Why don't you attack Al Gore's father? Of course, that is in the past, but the point that I want to make that Brian made is, I don't care what side of the aisle you are. If you're doing wrong, you're doing wrong. If you're a racist on one side of the aisle, you're also a racist on the other side of the aisle, and you get no breaks from me, and you should get no breaks from Brother Harry either. So thank you, Harry. As usual, you always have something.
Can I mention one more thing?
Real quick. Oops. Let's. Sorry, I kind of dropped you. Let's go to Patrick. Come on in, Patrick.
Good morning. Good Friday. I did want to support Harry yesterday. You or a little dismissive of racism in politics. And I think that you're making a mistake there. I agree with most of what you say, but that racism will end up manifesting itself in policy. So we do have to be very worried about whether or not.
Can I ask you? I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to ask for my sake. How was I dismissive? I just want to, because I really don't want to be dismissive of anything anybody says.
Okay, maybe dismissive isn't the best word, but you pretty much told them that you weren't worried about politicians being.
Oh, okay, I got you. I got you. Okay, got you.
But that's all I wanted to say about that. But I wanted to mainly talk about Bart. This will go a couple minutes, sorry. But I think that he's a Christian nationalist that called in a couple times, and he said some kind of offensive things towards a couple of listeners. And he was saying that he didn't want to pay for people's welfare, and he didn't really have any reason other than to say, I don't want to pay for it. I want to point out that not only is that contrary to the Beatitudes and Jesus' teaching, I'd also like to point out that churches are a recipient of welfare. We all subsidize them, whether we go or not. And I could sit back and say, I don't go to church, so I don't want to pay for it. But I can spend some time thinking about it, and I can ask myself, what value do churches bring to my society? And then I can further think, okay, this is a communion, a place for people to meet. I might not go there, but it might overall do a common good for society. So I can stand behind it. I can say this is somewhere where I'd like to spend my dollar, because I spent some time thinking about what positive it has. Now, welfare can have a lot of positives for a lot of different people for different reasons. 75% of people on welfare work. Another 15 or 20% can't because of disabilities, leaving about 5%, 10% of people that might be scamming a little bit. And when I say scamming, they're trying to get enough to get by. Now, I noticed that if Trump scams taxes, we think he should run the country. But if a minority scams welfare, we need to get rid of the entire system. I'm confused about that. But I just don't think that the people that are saying that they don't want to pay for welfare, they just don't understand what they're getting from it. We're all getting something out of this.
Let me tell you something. You are thinking through so many levels of indirection, and it's called, what you just did there was critical thinking. The expansion that you did with, in as much as churches are one of the largest welfare recipients, that you don't personally go out there and say, I don't want my money going to churches, because you know that even if you don't go, there may be a positive that comes out of it. You don't know. Maybe there's a positive that comes out of it. You've expanded your mind sufficiently so that you've understood that while there may be a few scammers on welfare, the general projection of welfare is actually good. One of the things that I preach is that welfare is a necessary correction for capitalism. Capitalism has no heart or soul. Capitalism has a severe flaw in the way it moves money to the top. The only way to mitigate that, some sort of redistribution. That is a flaw within that particular economic model. You are able to see that and understand that. You know what else, Patrick? Most of America was understanding that, and henceforth the Powell Memo. The Powell Memo wanted to point out, we can't have Americans critically thinking. Why do you think we have the book banning now? We don't want America to learn about the things that we've done that, maybe many of it mitigated thus far, but many still needed mitigation. We don't want to talk about those things because, again, the dumber we are, the more those few on the top can proceed. Anything else, Art? Patrick, before I go to Donald.
Yeah, I could give you 10 more seconds on when we have these big corporations like Starbucks. One thing that we all need to think about is that the larger corporation gets, the less efficient it is. So 12 mom and pop coffee shops would deliver us probably a better and less expensive product. And it would give everybody and families an opportunity to start a business. When we're trusting and investing in these large labels, we're ripping ourselves off. So not only are they treating the worker wrong, they're treating the consumer wrong. A small mom and pop doesn't have to charge extra to hand money to investors. It doesn't have to charge extra to pay for a large umbrella of management that look over multiple sites. What we've been allowed or allowing corporations to do is steal our opportunity, and they exchanged it for a poor product.
Thank you, Patrick. Remember what I told you about critical thinking? Thank you very much for that. And let me just, a lot of people are going to, thank you, Patrick. I'm going to go to Donald next. But before I get to Donald, I want to welcome Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. And we also have in the house, Billy Allison Irwin that just joined us as well. Thank you guys for being in the chat and having a robust conversation. One other thing I want to piggyback off of Patrick when he talks about the small mom and pop store should be able to do things cheaper, etc. All of that is true. But you know what's the magical thing, corporation talk? You ever heard the term economy of scales? Meaning, if I can buy in bulk, I can get things so much cheaper, which is why they generally have an advantage over the small mom and pop store. That is because of the way this economic system works. We could model an economic system to ensure that prices are consistent across the board so that those who really provide the right services excel as opposed to those who have the capital to dominate the market. So I know there was somebody that's going to call and talk about the economic of scales for these big corporations when the economic of scales are only there because economics of scale mean large corporations, large buyers get preferential treatment in purchasing things, just like the person who aggregates insurance. I'm going to give you 10,000 people to insure. So you give me the insurance at a discount. I make the profit on that discount and resell it for a bit cheaper than the person who is working individually can do. That is a figment of the system itself that could be mitigated by laws and regulations. Let's go to Donald. Come on in, Donald.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I am doing fine, my brother, especially after hearing your voice, sir.
Okay. I love Harry. Thank him very much for introducing me to jazz because I get my daily fill, and I've never been a strong listener of that genre, but it's actually growing on me.
All
now,
right.
Back to your point on Food Inc. Okay. While I was off for 2 weeks, I watched it. Are you telling me that one of our Supreme Court justices just happened to be one of the top legislative or lawyers or strong arms and a representative of that company? Okay. Yes. And one key to the puzzle you're forgetting is I talked to somebody yesterday. You keep forgetting about the lobbyists. Why are you not calling them? Why are we not looking at these people and seeing the company that they keep? They're pieces of crap. They think it's funny to get inside deals, to take from us everything else, and all that good, happy stuff. Now,
maybe I need. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go.
No, I thought that maybe in my narratives I usually use lobbyists, but maybe I just infer that folks know about lobbyists. Maybe I need to do that more. If you say that, maybe I need to use the word lobbyists more. Continue.
Okay, Jim Croce's got a song, and it's called "I Got a Name." People need to start using their name that was given to them and quit worrying about the number. You got a Social Security number, and then when you go work at a corporation, they give you a number. Why do they give you a number? Because then all the chiefs look at you as a number, not a person, and they get to sleep at night because it's the chiefs that's creating the problem because they're all trying to get their cuts of the pie all the way up to the CEO. And the fiduciary duty is to screw you and the customer. That's their job.
Donald, I did a piece and I thought I played it here at KPFT called Why Our Economic System, the Capitalist System, and it's called Abstraction. The great thing about the system is, and you just nailed it, right? You nailed what I said. You said You're a number. And if folks look at you as a number, as a unit of labor, as a widget, you don't have to look at the humanity. You just nailed that, brother. You just nailed it.
Okay. And the other thing, you asked me conflicted. Well, see, if you ever watch Walt Disney's Pinocchio, he had a little thing called Jimmy the Cricket. Well, I've got a wife called Brandy Cricket, and she keeps me in check because she goes and watches what I say on your show, and then she tears me a new one when I get home. So,
I love her.
I'm conflicted.
Hey, listen, tell her she's my sister, man. Tell her she's my sister. Hey, but Donald, and I want everybody listening to know, okay? That's my MAGA brother right there. And you see some intersectionality right there. That's what I'm talking about, folks. When we get this stuff together, right? And we start looking out for humanity and one another, this is how we change. If you think any of those politicians really want this, I have a bridge to sell you. Thank you, Donald. You have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Let's go to Joe.
Hey, good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Hey, sorry I had to run off yesterday, but I was listening on my phone after we spoke, and I noticed that you didn't really refute anything that I said about the the Biden crime family and their abuse of authority in Ukraine, but instead you said that I need to get other news sources, right? And then this morning you're fawning over Rachel Maddow, who she's I put her in the same category as Alex Jones or Rush Limbaugh. She is one of the worst propagandists on television nowadays. But then a caller came on and actually was the first open racist I've heard, on your show in a while. It was one of those people that uses, race as a checkbox, race as a lens through which they see everything. If they walk into a business, they wonder, well, is this a white-owned business or a black-owned business? Or if a woman was raped and murdered overnight, they might say, well, gee, what race were the rapists and what race was the woman? Or if the police killed someone the night before, well, they'll say, well, what color were the police and what color was the victim? And those people who think like that are the racists. Those are the last racists in our society.
Can I respond to all three of your points?
Sure.
When it comes to the Biden issue, as far as the Biden crime family, look, I have seen no evidence that tells me that Biden is a criminal as the evidence that I've seen on Trump. Now, did Hunter Biden take advantage of his daddy's name to get all kind of deals overseas? I sure as hell think he did. Just like I think all the kids of most Republicans and most Democratic presidents do, except for Carter and Obama. So I'm saying I hadn't seen that. I haven't read that. I haven't seen any positive stuff. But let's leave that to be debatable. When it comes to whoever was a racist that called, I'm not sure who you're speaking about. I really am trying to think about all the calls that I get. But you said something that I want to answer.
He said that he hears white fear in my voice or something like that.
Oh, white fear. Okay, I've used that term before. And let me try to say it. I think he just said in an what's that word? In something way, in a way that isn't right. Let me tell you. Let me give an example here. You talked about a crime. Whenever a crime occur, a rape or something, the person thinks, I think it through. You think this person thinks it through race. Is it a black person as a white person who did the crime? Let me stop and back up. Then I would be a racist when I hear, because I know how the media covers crime. When I hear about a terrorist attack in America, my first thought is, oh my God, I wonder if it's a Muslim who did it, because I understand what's going to come thereafter. When I hear certain crimes, I ask myself, I wonder if it's a black man who did it, because I know what's going to come after that. This isn't out of the blue that some people say, think about race whenever these incidents occur. And this is where I tell you, we have to get to a level of understanding. There is a reason why Black folks, why Latino folks, when certain things happen, they wonder, is it a Latino that did it? Is it a person that did it? Because of what society has promoted and put out there. So this isn't just out of the blue. When I go into a corporation, the 5 years that I worked for corporate America, all right, the first thing that was told to me, and I wrote that in my book, The Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. I was thrown into an office after this great woman, and I'm going to use race here, this great white woman. She just loved the work that I was doing, or that I did, and wanted to get me on, etc. And the VP called me into his office, shut the door. And the first thing he said is, I don't know why she likes you, but she wants to hire you. But I'm going to tell you something. If you don't work out, you out of here. And I don't want to hear a damn thing about affirmative action. That was my introduction into corporate America. So you have to think race to some extent. Now, my brother that called earlier, Patrick, say I am too dismissive of race. And I get what he's saying. But so, it's a touchy subject. So I don't, first of all, when it comes to white fear, let me tell you that I personally as well think that the kinds of things that Trump is trying to drum up is a false white fear. To tell you, Brother Joe, that somehow these others are trying to take something from you and then building up animosity against the other. That is something I am trying to work against. And so, we don't have a whole lot of time to finish this, but continue, my brother. And then I need to go to Brother Tag.
Cool. Lastly, about the Supreme Court and the Starbucks, I hear a lot of people saying that, the Supreme Court is a rotten institution. We need to just throw it out and start over again. Well, it seems to be the progressive response to a lot of things when they don't go your way. But if you look into, and I just did a quick cursory glance of what the case was about, and it was about the federal rules of civil procedure, and the so-called winter test. It's a 4-part test that should be applied to before granting a preliminary injunction.
Right. I know.
By a court. Right. And they didn't apply this well.
Can I get it? I get that. But let me, I hear you. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But let me tell you something. What they're asking for is to err. What Ketanji Brown in effect is saying, let's err while this case is going on. Let's err on the side of the employee, even if ultimately the employee is going to turn out to be wrong. Let's err on the side of the employee, because if you terminate that employee up front, you have materially affected, in the case of Starbucks, the lives of those 7 employees are affected before there was a resolution. And that's what it's all about, erring on the side of the people, even if they're wrong. We have this thing called innocent until proven guilty. So I agree with you, but those things are corporate driven. In other words, as we figure out what it is for the corporation, we do it. Joe, I forgot to answer one of your questions.
You know what? I've been boycotting. Yeah. I've been boycotting Starbucks for 20 years, and I suggest you guys vote with your wallet. If you don't like something Starbucks did, let them know about it and never buy their stuff again. And
you know what? You have a point. There is a point. Absolutely there. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends are at Starbucks. But look. But here's what I'm saying, though, Joe. Joe, as far as Rachel, right? On another day, I want to do this. Topic by topic. What makes you believe? I can't do it now because I got other callers. But topic by topic. What do you think Rachel is wrong about specifically? So you be thinking about that, and then we'll talk about that another day. All right?
Okay, check your email, man. I'm joe.bigoil, right? I sent you another email, and I know you're not getting them, but
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if somebody's trying to keep harmony from occurring or what, but I look for it. All right? Take it easy, my brother. Peace. Let's go ahead and put Art on hold and try to go to Brian and see if we can get to Brian. Brian, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Talk to me, Brian. And then we'll go back. We'll cycle back. Yes, go ahead, Brian.
Okay. When is the left going to realize Joe Biden has a problem physically and mentally? When are they going to acknowledge this man cannot do the job?
Can I tell you a quick story? I was going to watch Rachel Maddow yesterday. The friend that bought my tickets, her husband came and picked me up and drove me into town. And as we're walking, as we're driving, he looks at me and he said, God, Egberto, the guy is fully functional, but man, the way he walks, right? And I said, yeah, he does kind of have the way he walks is, and everybody can see the way he walks, right? And he says, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with him. Why? And the camera stays on him. And I said, the camera is going to stay on him because, again, the way he walks. And then the other thing I said is, but the mind is there. And I said, one of the things that we have to do, if Biden was mentally deficient, Brian, I would be the first saying we need to get another candidate. I wanted another candidate, not because of the way he walks or anything like that, because I want a more progressive candidate. But that said, I am not going to argue with you that the guy walks, he walks like an old man. But that's an old man that I can vote for because I know what his policies and mind stands for. So that's where I'm at. Anything else, Brian?
No, mentally, he's not cognitive. Mentally,
I don't see how.
He doesn't have it either.
I tell you what, let's do this. Let's go ahead and have this conversation after the debates in 2 weeks. Okay? We'll see.
Okay. And you actually listen to Rachel Maddow?
Oh, I love Rachel Maddow.
Of course. Yeah. She's the one that said if you take the COVID shot, it stops. And now it's proven out that it actually.
First of all, Rachel she's not a doctor, but again, the vaccine saved a lot of lives. But I can't go into the vaccine right now, Brian. But we'll talk about that.
Shot.
Say that again.
Not a vaccine. It was a shot. It was not a vaccine. It was a shot.
All right. Let me tell you, brother, my sister is a doctor. The mRNA is a vaccine, and it follows all the rules that vaccines follow in the way it works with the immune system. I wish people would just go ahead and whenever they say it's not a vaccine, it's a shot, which is what the right wing, a lot of folks on the right wing say, let's see, how does a vaccine work again? And we could prove it. But I only have 7 minutes and I got to get to the other calls, Brian. But trust me, the mechanism on how vaccines work is exactly how the spike on that virus, the spike works that the immune system looks for as a signal to make it work. So please, let's look at mechanics. Please, let's not look, Brian. Brian, you're a smart person. Brian, listen to me. Brian, listen to me. You're a smart person. Don't let these folks mess with your brain. Thank you very much, my brother. Let's go to Johnny.
There is no.
Come on in, Johnny.
Sometimes Brian gets so close, and then other times Brian makes my brain hurt.
I love Brian. I genuinely love Brian, okay?
Brian, if you're listening still, please recognize your question was so close, yet so far. When you say the left, the left has already, Brian. I'm the left. I represent the left, not Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and the Clintons and Barack Obama. Those other folks, they're centrists. They're centrists in the party. They're centrist Democrats. They're not the left. I'm the left. Egberto's the left. You are the right. But hopefully you will come left where you need to be. We need you on the left, Brian. Quit playing around. Bye-bye.
Thank you so kindly, Johnny. Okay, Harry says he has one more thing. Harry, what's that one more thing, my brother?
Okay, well, there was one more thing I was going to say was about Barack Obama. When Donald Trump was running for presidency the first time, he started hurling racial epithets about Barack Obama's middle name, Hussein. And so he was trying to link them to Al Qaeda and link Barack to ISIS. And so, like you were saying there a little while ago, Egberto, Donald Trump says a lot of things to stimulate white fear. And it was Ray who was talking about Joe and the white fear when Joe couldn't remember the caller's name.
Ray, that's right. It was Ray. Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, no, I agree with Ray exactly on that.
Okay, yeah, well, then I said I wanted to make sure I wasn't dismissive of what you said, but I guess it's Ray that I better tell. I know. But look, anyway, we are close to the end of the show. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment to Donald's Jim Croce song, I Got a Name. There's also a song by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band called I Feel Like a Number, and I think that's a little closer to what you're talking about.
I like that. Of course, I remember the song that he was talking about. Croce, hey, Croce died. Wasn't it this year that Croce died? Or last year?
He was in an airplane crash.
Okay, I have the wrong one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was terrible. I was actually headed to school that morning because I was in high school at the time. Mm-hmm. And they came across the radio and went, no, not Jim Croce. I love his music.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think he was at the what is it, that thing in New York, the big thing where they had all the bands show up in New York. What is it called? I'm getting old. I can't remember all these names. Woodstock.
No, I don't think he was at Woodstock.
I thought he was. Okay. Okay.
Well, you were officially now out of time. So
okay, good. So you guys finish up from what's up, man? Give me the end.
Well, great show this morning. Enjoyed it. And Tag was having trouble getting in. It was on his side. So
okay,
he's going to call in on U-Talk, which unfortunately I have to do today.
All right. Anyway, we are going to get Jack. What you got to say, real quick?
Okay, come on, Jack.
Nothing.
He says nothing.
All right, great. Anyway, folks, Thank you all. Love you all. We got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. Don't forget all the stuff that we didn't cover in the show. Go to politicsandright.com/newsletter. Politicsandright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Jack. We are what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsandright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.